What's up, Soul Family? Coming at you with another collective reading. This one's gonna be on Weeping Willow with Family Sorrow. So, as always, let's jump right in. If you're looking for a one-on-one reading, you can directly message me or do so at the link in the bio. The first reading is 35 for 20 minutes. You can ask whatever questions you want, or you can just let me pull and see what comes out, and we can go from there. If it doesn't resonate, then I'll simply refund you. So let's see what this Family Sorrow is about. I don't like negative readings. Okay, on the opposite side, we have literally Tankard, which is celebration, fun, enjoyment. And then Sunrise, which is new creative ideas, new ventures, a fresh start. So this makes me feel like it's the energy of somebody who might not necessarily be on the best terms with their family, I'd say. And with that would make me think that it's a call to trust that even if you're not able to connect to them, then there's something out there for you. You know, it's like sometimes the bonds we have end up being chosen ones, and sometimes those are just as important, if not more, especially since we're able to pick those out of free will. It's not to say that we can't still hope or for desire for like those connections to be, but sometimes we do have to simply celebrate connections or seek out connections outside of us. Even if we don't necessarily have them yet, then it's still something worth going after. So yeah, we have like the Five of Wands. So especially if there's like lots of conflicts, disagreements, if there's even like this like competitive nature, then sometimes the best bet is simply just not to engage, not to compete, not to deal with the conflict and like I wouldn't say rise above it because we're human. That shit just happens. I wouldn't want to say just because you have conflict you're higher or lower than anybody else, or do not have conflict that you're higher or lower than anybody else. But a lot of times it could just be a difference of perspectives, and we kind of just need to allow ourselves to disconnect from that. And then the Four of Cups. So sometimes, yeah, it can be something that can be draining and exhausting, especially when there's just a difference of perspectives, or maybe sometimes an inability to fully have other people perceive or understand your perspectives. And that doesn't necessarily mean that anybody is right or wrong or bad for it. It just means that sometimes there could be a simple gap in somebody's capacity to grasp or connect or understand what your perspective is. And sometimes that's really just what it is. Like, and we tend to get frustrated, especially when there is that disconnect. But I think it's important to understand that with this human experience, sometimes the information or sometimes the perspectives that we might hold can be challenging to another person's being. It can be challenging to another person's nervous system almost, and to the point in which it can then force certain responses out of them that are almost done for survival, even if they might not be consciously aware of it. So I think a lot of times it's important to be mindful not to be drained, not to allow ourselves to be frustrated because of the fact that that is the dynamic in that scenario. We can only, in some cases, be graceful or give people grace when it comes to where they are, their level of awareness, and how they're able to interact with certain concepts. Certain things can be destabilizing to another person's being, so we don't want to, of course, we have to have compassion for ourselves too, but it's also important to be mindful of that as well. But let's see what's to come. I see new adventures, new things on the horizon, so let's see what we're bringing in now versus the not so fun part of things. Okay, cool. So this makes me feel like we're still kind of in the energy of the family sorrow energy, where it might be also that the energy of the family that you have, maybe they're just kind of traitorous little bitches. I mean, sometimes you just get born in a bad family, and I'm blessed that I don't have to necessarily experience those things, but I can only imagine if you are born into a family where you don't feel safe, where people are actually backstabbing and giving you like the energy of like you have to like watch your back. I can only imagine how destabilizing that can be to your existence and your experience. So it's also important to keep in mind that if this is your dynamic, then the things I was saying prior, it could still be valid to another person. Like general readings, it's important to note that general readings, sometimes it's a matter of what applies to you and keeping what resonates. So I don't ever want to have it be a scenario in which part of reading resonates for somebody, and then it comes across as if I'm condoning somebody who is being abused or who is in a bad situation or scenario. Or maybe there are times like where you might end up feeling as if, because like part of the reading resonates, that I might then be telling you to simply overlook, the abuse that you might be going through. So I don't ever want to be somebody who perpetuates that and then allows other people to, you know, undergo abuse at the for the sake of spirituality or for the sake of some greater notion. So if you are in a scenario in which you are not safe and people are, backstabbing you and stealing from you and talking behind your back and gossiping, and you don't feel safe, then do what you need to get yourself out of that scenario and be mindful of the environment that you're in and how to navigate it to the best of your ability without being drained. And if this is a dynamic that you have, then with great family sorrow or family sorrow, it make me think that it is painful to have people who you would love to be close to who would betray you or do certain things to you. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's a reflection of you, your worth, or anything that you deserved. That's simply who they were and what they did, and that's not for you to take on. Ooh, I just dropped like half the deck. Give me a second. I would have loved to interpret those, but it was like 7 cards. I'm like, ooh, that's going to be longer than like 3 minutes. Once again, like a billion cards came out. Hey, maybe I should have just read them and kind of did a brief overview. Then, okay, one of the cards that did pop out was the Sun card. Then we have the King of Wands, and then we have the Wheel of Fortune. So it's definitely the energy of... Sorry, let me kind of organize this. The sun always comes out, and it's not always a fun experience to kind of like be navigating through the dark or be navigating the scenarios that we're in, but it's important to be mindful of things changing. And with new adventures on the way, it's like where you go through one cycle of being disconnected, where you're not necessarily having fun, where all these things don't necessarily seem to be going right. And then we also then have cycles of things shifting for us and great change happening, and us closing out certain chapters and experiences as we come to certain conclusions and as we then start to conduct ourselves different energetically. So it's really important to note that sometimes it's tumultuous as we're going through things, but sometimes you just have to keep your mind on the vision. You have to kind of like be that... I'm sorry, this is a Page of Wands, my apology. Sometimes you have to keep your eye on the plan and allow yourself to be somebody who, even if you are going through difficult things, I'm not saying you can't feel negative emotions or be frustrated, but not to allow that to be something that you succumb to ultimately. Because the sun does shine and things do change and things do shift. You just never know how it will. And maybe with the Page of Wands and the new adventures, because the Page of Wands, whenever I think about that, that's the energy of starting something new. So maybe it's a goal to start that new hobby, that new interest, that new show even. You never know like what will lead you down certain rabbit holes, because I think we get messages and ideas many times by the things we watch too. So maybe it's a call to be really explorative, or I don't know if that's even a word, to be honest, but explore different things and to be a little bit more open to going on adventures and doing something different that might give you that fire back, and be curious to, having more fun and new experiences. And sometimes when we allow ourselves to be in that energy, that's when our greatest change happens. That's when we allow bigger shifts, and sometimes that's how we quantum leap, by then completely conducting ourselves in a completely different way and immersing ourselves in a different life to the best of our ability. And then let me see. Okay, so yeah, we have the Page of Wands and the Knight of Wands. So I think this is all about seeking out after things and learning things. So seek out after new experiences and learn different things. It's all about really being immersed in that Wands energy, that thing that's going to kind of like light you up. And maybe it's even like something you're trying to create or an endeavor or something like that. Maybe it's even the energy of projects that you're working on, that you're being told to go after and put intention and effort behind. So do the thing, create art, do things that really give you that spark in your being, and everything else will fall into place. That being said, you guys, peace and blessings, and I'll catch you guys in the next reading.